Few places in history carry as much mystery and tragedy as the legendary Library of Alexandria in Alexandria. For centuries, it has symbolized humanity's greatest intellectual ambition and one of its greatest losses. The story of its fall is not just about a building that burned. It is about knowledge gathered from across the ancient world, ideas that shaped civilizations, and questions that may never be answered because the record itself disappeared. The Library of Alexandria was founded in the early 3rd century BCE, during the reign of Ptolemy I Soter, and expanded under his successor, Ptolemy II Philadelphus. Their vision was extraordinary, to collect all the knowledge of the known world in one place. Scholars were invited from Greece, Egypt, Persia, India, and beyond. Ships arriving in Alexandria's harbor were reportedly searched for books and manuscripts, which were copied and added to the collection. The originals were often kept, copies were returned. It was an aggressive pursuit of information unlike anything the ancient world had seen. At its height, the library may have contained hundreds of thousands of scrolls. These texts covered mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, geography, drama, and poetry. It was not merely a storage facility for books. It was part of a larger research institution known as the Museon, a community where scholars lived, debated, and expanded human understanding. Figures such as Euclid, Archimedes, and Eratosthenes were connected to its intellectual environment. Eratosthenes famously calculated the circumference of the Earth with remarkable accuracy centuries before modern instruments existed. The library represented something radical for its time: the belief that knowledge should be collected, preserved, and studied systematically. It was an attempt to map the intellectual boundaries of civilization itself. In many ways, it was the ancient world's version of a global research university. Yet, for all its ambition, the Library of Alexandria stood in a city shaped by power struggles and political conflict. Alexandria was a crossroads of cultures, religions, and empires. Over the centuries, it became a battleground not only for armies but also for ideologies. One of the earliest possible blows to the library came in 48 BCE, during the civil war between Julius Caesar and his rival Pompey. When Caesar arrived in Alexandria, conflict erupted. Ancient sources suggest that a fire started in the harbor spread to parts of the city. Some historians believe this fire may have damaged or destroyed a portion of the library's collection. However, the exact scale of the destruction remains uncertain. The records are fragmented, and later writers may have exaggerated the event. Even if the library survived Caesar's fire, its decline likely unfolded gradually. Political instability, shifts in religious power, and reduced funding could have weakened the institution over time. In the 4th century CE, as Christianity became dominant in the Roman Empire, pagan temples and institutions faced increasing pressure. In 391 CE, under the rule of Theodosius I, pagan temples were ordered closed. The Serapeum, a temple complex in Alexandria that housed a daughter library, was destroyed during religious conflict. Some scholars believe this marked another significant loss of ancient texts. Later traditions attribute the final destruction of the library to the Muslim conquest of Alexandria in the 7th century. According to a medieval account, the Caliph Umar supposedly ordered the burning of the books, claiming that if they agreed with the Quran, they were unnecessary, and if they disagreed, they were dangerous. However, many modern historians doubt the authenticity of this story, noting that it appeared centuries after the events and lacks strong evidence. The truth is both more complex and more unsettling. The Library of Alexandria likely did not vanish in a single dramatic inferno. Instead, it probably suffered multiple episodes of damage across centuries' fires, neglect, political upheaval, and ideological shifts gradually eroding what had once been the greatest collection of knowledge on Earth. Its destruction was not just an event, it was a process. What makes the loss so haunting is not simply the burning of scrolls, it is the unknown. We do not know precisely what was lost. Early works of science, forgotten philosophies, historical accounts from cultures now silent, entire intellectual traditions may have disappeared without a trace. Imagine if groundbreaking discoveries had been made centuries earlier but vanished before they could influence the modern world. Imagine mathematical theories, medical insights, or literary masterpieces erased from existence. The fall of the Library of Alexandria has become a symbol of how fragile knowledge can be. Civilizations rise, accumulate wisdom, and assume permanence. Yet political conflict, intolerance, and neglect can undo centuries of progress. The library stood as proof that humanity values learning, but its disappearance reminds us that preservation is never guaranteed. And perhaps that is why its story continues to captivate us. It is not just about ancient Egypt or Rome. It is about every society that gathers knowledge and assumes it will last forever. It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. How much of our own understanding could be lost through war, censorship, or disaster? How secure is the information we depend on today? The day the Library of Alexandria fell, whether by flame, decree, or decay, was more than the loss of a building. It was a warning. Knowledge is powerful, but it is also vulnerable. The responsibility to protect it belongs to every generation. If this story moved you, consider what other forgotten chapters of history still shape our world in ways we barely recognize. Subscribe to the History Vault for more deep explorations into the moments that changed civilization, because understanding what we have lost may be the first step toward protecting what we still have.